Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Upkick MMA, episode 206. I am Brendan. Bellator 289. The main event. We're covering the prelims here. The prelims include Denise Kielholtz, Ilara, Joanne, Kyle Crutchmer versus Jaleel, Willis, Cody Law versus Cris, Lencioni. We're going to cover all of those fights here. We're going to cover the whole prelims. If you're looking for the main card, the main event, that's in the last video. If you are looking for a specific event, it's down in the comments below. If you like MMA, you like fight breakdowns, you like someone trying to understand, you like communicating about horrible decisions and what the hell's going on in MMA and with this commentary, subscribe to the channel so you know the next video is coming out. Thank you. All right, let's get going. So, the featured prelim bout was Denise Kielholtz versus Ilara Joanne. These two lovely ladies. Kielholtz was ranked number 3 before this. It's likely that she will not after this weekend because she did take an L. So, both women started this one. So this one was a little bit controversial. It was a split decision. Both women standing and throwing hard. Ilara landed well with the hooks and staying in range. Denise was also landing pretty well in this first round. Denise is standing her ground, but Ilara was landing the bigger shots. You know, commentary was talking about how Joanne, did I say Joanne? I hope I didn't. Joanne isn't landing the hard shots as she stuns Denise with a left hook. So she landed this left hook over and over. And I mentioned again, so this left hook from Ilara, she was throwing it at the end of her combinations, a big looping left hook, and it was landing right on the chin over and over again really well, enough so that it stunned Denise at one point. So right before she stunned her, they said, Denise is the one landing the damage, and she's the one landing the bigger shots. And the impact coming from Denise. No, that wasn't it. The left hook from Ilara at the end of those combinations was the big difference maker in this round. Dan Miragliotta, I don't know what the fuck his deal was with these prelims. It's like he must have had diarrhea or something. Like, does he have IBS? This is not a I would not make fun of him if he had this. The dude seemed like he did not want to be in there. He's like, "Oh, come on, let's go. I don't got time for this. We need up, fight, punch, poke, submit. Nope. Move. Like, that's how it felt, like chaotic and hectic with him in there. Like, you had to be doing something. You had to have frenetic energy, because if you were not, the fight was going to get separated. I don't understand how you can do this. And it's the incongruities, or inconsistency rather, of his timing and decision making. I'll go over that later. I think in the third round I'll go over it. So he separated. He kept separating them anytime they were in the clinch after like 10, 20 seconds. Whatever, you can have your opinions about that, but we'll get to why it's the way he was doing it wasn't right. Second round, I gave this first round to Ilara. Easy peasy. The second round was pretty much the same as the first round until about 90 seconds left, when Joanne, working for the takedown, got on top and at about 60 seconds. 10 seconds later, Dan was warning them about not doing enough. And then 30 seconds later, there was a stand-up, okay, which I thought was bullshit. 10 seconds after a takedown and working for top position, getting in dominant position. 10 seconds, she was warned. 30 seconds, stood up. Now, if you're someone who's a fan of that, I mean, I am not a fan of someone sitting on someone and not doing anything for extended periods of time. I also am not a fan. There is a happy medium, and there's some play in there, right? And it's case-by-case basis. You can judge it based off the situation at hand, the two fighters, their fighting styles, those kinds of things. You can judge it by a whole different criteria, but there's a range of things that are acceptable. Sitting on someone for 5 minutes of a round, the better part of 5 minutes of a round, and not landing any damage, not looking for better position, not acceptable. Standing someone up after 30 seconds of being in someone's guard, also not acceptable. Right? This was This is the first time they were on the ground, too. It's not like they had been warned or Ilara was warned before this about not doing anything when in that position. So there was no previous warning about this during the fight. Okay. Another part of that is why even go for a takedown if you're just immediately going to get stood back up if you can't get into a better position, right? You're just giving the advantage and you're giving a get out of jail free card to a striker who refuses to learn takedown defense or who doesn't want to work for a takedown defense, right? To that person who throws their hands up. If you had Dan Miragliotta in the main event, do you think Liz Carmouche should be champion? I would argue that there is a good chance she wouldn't be. Do you think she should be champion based off the work that she put in? I think so. I think she was doing everything she wanted to do, and Velasquez wasn't able to do anything she wanted to do. All right. And I felt she stayed active enough in those positions, in those clinch positions. Anyway, that all being said, I gave that second round to Denise. I felt like she landed the better shots during the round. I felt like she did more damage when she was in better positions, like on the feet especially. I gave her that round, 19-19. This is not an indictment on Denise. And then later on when I talk about this again, because he had a habit of doing this in another fight, this is not an indictment on a fighter or the fighter, because neither one of them was this fight or the next fight. Neither one of them was putting their arms up in the air saying, what the heck? Why am I just sitting here? Shouldn't we be up fighting? Come on, referee, stand us up. Neither one of the fighters was doing that stuff. So because of that, this is an indictment and a criticism of the ref and not the fighter. Like I said, Denise won that second round. Third round, Joanne was working for the takedown. She ended up getting it at about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. There was less activity in this round, but 40 seconds go by. Okay, so she got the takedown at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. You can go back and watch this and time it for yourself. It's on YouTube. You're more than welcome to go watch this. So she gets the takedown at 3:30. 40 seconds goes by, and she gets a warning for inactivity. Now, this one, although still a bit soon, that warning, that's justified. And at 40 seconds, that might have been too long for a warning of just sitting there, to be honest with you. But I'm okay with that. But he waited 40 seconds to warn her, and I'm going to tell you, she was doing less this time than she did in the first round. Or in the second round when she had top position. She was doing less. And then at 60 seconds, they got stood up. A full 30 seconds longer, she was able to stay in that position, not land any strikes before it got stood up. Now, this one in this last round here, it's still a little bit quick for my taste, but it's true. She wasn't being very active on the ground, and she wasn't doing a lot of damage. She wasn't looking for better position, and if she was, then Denise was doing a good job of defending those things. So, yeah, hey, you know what? I wouldn't be mad at that stand-up if that was consistent, but it wasn't. See, the round before, he warned her at 10 seconds. How can you have any activity in 10 seconds that justifies not being warned based off of whatever criteria was in his head at that time? How do you have any time to do anything offensively in 10 seconds? I understand that, like, relatively during a fight, 10 seconds can be an eternity. I get that. But the criteria of Dan Miragliotta in that moment, what was he looking for her to do in that 10 seconds before he warned her? And then later on, in the third round, doesn't warn her at all. 10 seconds, 20 seconds. I was waiting for it because I was timing it. I wanted to see how long he would wait. 40 seconds. And then 60 seconds to get stood up. Joanne ended up getting the back with 60 seconds left. And then Denise grabbed the inside of her gloves 3 times, or she got warned for it. That's 3 too many. If you want to go by modern MMA rule application, that's 2 too many. she should have had a point deduction. And then I was like, I don't know if I was just like in a bad mood from the amount of interference with the fight. Like here's another thing, guys. Like this isn't me coming from a situation like coming from a side of like I want this fight. I'm not a huge fan of either one of these women. I don't dislike either one of these women. I'm kind of impartial for this fight. As far as a fighting style goes, I tend to enjoy action, right? So I would err on the side of more stand-ups, right? If you went off of my previous, if you've watched me before, you would understand that that's generally the way I lean. And if I think that this is going crazy, like there's something wrong. And like I was about to say, that this was taking me out of the fight. I wasn't thinking about what was going on in the fight. I was waiting for Dan Miragliotta. Like I said, I was waiting to write down when he was going to stand them up. When was he going to give them a warning? That's what I was concerned with. I was less concerned with the two fighters in there. When you insert yourself into a fight like that and make it so that you're either the headline or a notable part of a fight, you've probably done something wrong. Not always. Sometimes it's you make a good stoppage, you break the action. It could just be you're a part of the story or you did something really good, right? But if you are the story, probably not a good sign. And then in this case, what the story is inconsistencies with the amount of time he was allowing them to work. So like I said, maybe I was just in a bad mood, and with the amount of interference from him and the fact that Denise got to get away with 3 fouls right in a row, like immediately, they were like, bam, bam, bam. It was, hey, get your fingers out of the gloves. Get your fingers out of the gloves. And then he separated and got her fingers out of the gloves 3 times. So I actually gave it to Joanne, 29-28. The last round was close enough to where if you gave it to Denise, I totally understand, especially with the mood I was in. I was probably biased towards Ilara because, like, biased against Denise because of those fouls. And like I said, I was already in a bad mood because of watching all the interference. So if you gave that to Denise, I understand it was a split decision and the fact that John McCarthy was upset about it. It wasn't a one-way fight, that's for sure. This was really close, and I understand, John McCarthy making complaints about it. And we'll get to more of his stuff. If you watch my last video, you understand that, I don't believe he's the best orator. I think that he doesn't get his message across in a clear and concise manner. In fact, I think he oversimplifies things to the point of almost soundbitey style of commentary in which he contradicts himself, because the situation that he's describing, he might, like I said it last night in the video, he might not be wrong. John McCarthy might not be wrong based off the situation that he's describing. And in this situation, the argument he was making, I actually, I could see where he's coming from. If I go back and watch it again, maybe I'll agree with him. But the way he says these things, it becomes problematic when you hear him over and over again, or when you listen to him over a long period of time. Sorry, if you listen to him over a long period of time, because he'll contradict himself by saying literally the exact opposite thing. All right, let's move on here because this is a prelim video. Kyle Crutchmer versus Jaleel Willis. These two lovely fellas. Jaleel Willis getting the decision win here. Good fight from him, by the way. This was not the most interesting fight by any means. This was pretty much one-sided, in my opinion. We'll go through it round by round here. I'm just wondering if there's some videos, because I don't want to open up their YouTube channel and just post things, because I feel like that'll get me pulled from the YouTubes. No. We'll talk about that fight in a minute. We'll talk about that one. Nope, no highlights from this one. Okay, that's understandable. So the first round here, Willis' jab was working pretty well, setting up the right hand. Willis with the looping right hand around the guard. So Crutchmer had a high guard for a straight, and it's effective, generally speaking, especially for straight shots. But what Willis would do would come around the outside with that right hook. It wasn't even a full hook. It was just a looping right hand to come around that guard. And it caught Crutchmer a few times. Kyle was in the clinch, not doing enough apparently because Dan separated them almost immediately. I wasn't timing it at this point, but my guess would have been 15 seconds. He immediately warns them too, like, "Hey, we need to do work, dude." He just got in the clinch. How are you supposed to, as a grappler or a person who's going in with a grapple heavy offensive strategy, and one of those byproducts of your strategy is to wear out your opponent's cardio, get the blood built up in their arms, make it so that their strikes don't have the same pop on them later in the rounds. How are you supposed to wear on them if you're not allowed to even stay in the clinch unless you are, I don't know, doing backflips and shit, or spinning attacks and constantly like popping up and down for takedown attempts? I don't know what the hell he wanted, to be honest with you. So it was kind of frustrating to watch that. Willis landed a really nice right hand, great kick to the body. In the clinch, in the middle of the cage, this is how bad it was. In the clinch, they're in the middle of the cage, right at smack dab in the middle. Dan was saying they need to work, even while they were throwing knees against each other. They were both landing knees on each other, and they're like, "Come on, guys, you got to work." Work what? What do you mean work? The hell are you talking about? 10-9 Willis. Great round for him, by the way. Willis ran away with this one. Second round, they got separated while they were in the clinch in the middle of the cage. Willis was winning this fight and loving the fact that the clinches were ending early. So, Crutchmer was trying to engage in the grappling, and Willis probably benefited. Not probably, he did benefit from the fact that they could, like, the grappling exchanges weren't allowed to drag on. Willis, he did what he had to do, and there's, like I said in the previous fight, this is not an indictment on him or how his performance, because I feel like he performed very well and he did everything he was supposed to do. Kyle kept going for takedowns, and mid takedown attempt, with his head buried in the lap of Willis, he was getting told that he needed to do more work, and then they got separated again by Dan Miragliotta. I think he might have set a record for most separations in one night, does Dan Miragliotta. So 2018 to Willis, he just was doing way more damage. Kyle was really tired in the third round. He was just getting countered, and Willis pretty much landing at will. There was another separation by Dan in this third round, and then I said, man, who cares? This is 30-27. Dan doesn't separate when Willis was doing nothing but foot stomps in the clinch against the cage, which was weird. And I understand that it was near the end of the round, but you got to apply the same logic the entire fight, whether it's in the first 10 seconds or the last 10 seconds. If the guy's holding him and you don't like that, you got to separate him or at least give him a warning. And Willis had him against the cage and was doing foot stomps and pretty much nothing else for the last 20 seconds of the fight. No warning. And I wrote down, I was like, this sucks too, because it's not, like I said, this is not an indictment on Willis. I felt like he had a great performance. He went out there and pretty much dominated the fight start to finish. And in my head, the story became Dan Miragliotta doesn't like people fighting. He doesn't like people doing MMA. He wants to see striking and action, and that's it. He wants to see a goddamn kickboxing match. That's all he wants to see. Kickboxing or jiu-jitsu. And not even jiu-jitsu, because you can't stay down there. Like, he wants nothing else. Clinch, separate him. On the ground, are you doing backflips down there? Are you doing backflips? Separate him. Get up. Stand up. In the middle of the cage with the collar, both having the collar tie. Are you guys not throwing uppercuts? Huh? Or are you not doing the Don Fry, Takayama, hold collar tie, punch each other in the face? But separate. What are you doing? Fucking garbage, man. This is incredibly frustrating to watch. Moving on. Willis, I had him win 30-27. Great performance. Cris Lencioni versus Cody Law. Cris Lencioni getting the split decision victory here to John McCarthy's delight based off of his criteria. If you ask me, I don't agree with it. I will explain from my perspective why, but there is an argument to be made that Lencioni did enough from bad positions to warrant getting a victory here. And it's just, again, John McCarthy's John McCarthy's logic, because even after the fight ended, he said Cody Law was the one dictating where the fight took place. Anyway, so Lencioni was moving forward and keeping Law against the cage, but Law was throwing and landing more. So Cris, with hands out wide, laughing and talking shit, hooting and hollering, Law got a takedown after a decent punch. Law spent the last minute of this first round on top, landing damage. It was a good round for Law. He did more damage. Now, somehow, John McCarthy gave this round to Lencioni. I don't agree with that one. Go back and watch it. Even when Lencioni was moving forward, he was getting outlanded. Now, in the second round, Law got the takedown early. Like within the first minute, he got the takedown. And Cris, to his credit, was being really active off his back, which stopped Law from being able to do real damage or get really advanced position, although he did advance position. John McCarthy says, it's great if you are on top on the ground. So here, I had to write it down. This is a quote from John McCarthy. It's great if you are on top on the ground, but if you aren't doing damage, you are losing. That's not true. That's not true. It's not. It's not. Because if you're on top, now, I know what he was trying to say because I was watching the fight. What he was trying to say that if you're on top and your opponent is damaging you, even though you are in technically the more advantageous position, you are losing the fight because you're not doing damage, right? That's what you would say, or what he was trying to get across. But that's not what he said. He said, if you're on top, that's great. But if you're not doing damage, you're losing. Not true. Objectively untrue. You can be on top and be winning and landing 0 damage. I will direct you to, I don't know how many wrestle-heavy offensive fighters. You could point to a bunch of different ones, a bunch of different fights in which, or even jiu-jitsu heavy. If you're on top, I've said it before, going for a submission or working for a submission, advancing position to go for a submission is inherently not landing damage, but you are trying to finish the fight. Okay? Are you winning in that situation? Yes. Yes, you are. So, like I said, this is not out of context either. This is the kind of clickbaity style, and I don't know if John McCarthy's doing it on purpose. I'm pretty sure he's not, but he's trying to condense what he's saying too much, and it comes out, and if you watch enough, you just get, like, it just puts a bad taste in your mouth, because you're like, that's what he, like, if you were to just take that sentence, that's wrong. That's wrong. The commentary team, the guy calling these fights, just said that if you're on top, if you're not doing damage, you're losing. That's wrong. Objectively, empirically, however you want to, that is wrong. So Cris was throwing up sub attempts in this second round, but none of them were close, right? You can flail around and fling your legs around and go for submissions, and if none of them are close, you're not doing damage either. Okay? So who's in the better position, the guy on top or the guy on the bottom? Well, who's controlling the position? The guy on top. So it's a gamble. Going for submissions off your back is a gamble because you could lose position, you can take damage in the process, and you can stay in a less advantageous position if you don't get close with the submission. So guess what? All 3 of those scenarios equal you losing the round or that position, that time. Now, if you land the submission or you get a tight submission, hey, that's a gamble you made. It's like throwing a big naked kick or a big naked hook, right? It's a gamble. If you throw everything into it, you could throw yourself off position, which could open you up to counters. You could overextend and get taken down, or you could land. Oh, you're using up a ton of energy and not land. But what happens if it lands? You could end the fight immediately, right? It's a gamble. Everything you're doing in there, it's cost benefit, right? The cost of going for submissions off your back and not getting them and not getting close to any of them is you're losing. You're losing the fight. It is what it is. Now, had they been close, or had he got him in any submissions or taken 0 damage off his back, because here's the thing is Law did land some damage from the top position. Not a lot, mind you, but a little. So if he landed 0 and he was only defensive in top position, now I could say, oh, all right. Yeah, clearly Lencioni's winning, but I didn't. The whole time, dude, he wasn't able to do damage in the Oh, that's what I wrote down. Law was able to do some damage in transition. So every time that Lencioni would go for a submission attempt off his back, Law would maintain his position, roll with it, move through it, avoid the submission, and then it's not even a scramble, but in that transition time, he would land a little bit of damage. Now, a punch from the top and the punch from the bottom are not created equal. Every situation's different, blah, blah, blah. But generally speaking, you aren't finishing fights from your back with strikes. Now, you can point to a few examples that prove the rule. All you're doing by picking out a few from your brain that you can remember, because I can remember a couple too, right? If you remember those, like I know Kevin Holland has done it. I get that. Okay? If you remember those and they stood out that much to you, can you name all of the fights that ended with a big right hand? No. Can you name all the fights that ended with a spinning heel kick? You can name a lot. You could probably name a few of them. And there's a few that stick out, but I bet you wouldn't be able to name all of them. Can you name all of the fights that ended with a slam? That's a shorter list. Name me all the fights that ended with strikes from the person on their back. There's probably like 4. So thousands of fights only happening 4 times. This is the exception that proves the rule. So when you're on top, landing even pity-patty strikes on top versus the strikes coming at you from the bottom, and again, had they been very damaging, had they opened up cuts, were they, really concussive, were they shocking Law into changing position or being more defensive in the way he was, they weren't doing any of that. They were landing and he was doing damage from his back, but it wasn't significant. I gave that second round to Law. And then in the third round, Law was on top literally the whole round. Cris did nothing. He did nothing productive. And one of the judges gave the fight 30-27 to Cris Lencioni. I don't get it. Right? I gave this last round to Law. I could see if you gave maybe that second round, possibly that first round, if we can go back and we go punch for punch and we talk about who did more damage. Maybe because Lencioni did land a right hand that gave Law pause, and I don't know if he technically dropped to a knee because of that. So maybe you call that a knockdown and he wins that first round. Understandable, that's fine. Second round again, arguable. So if you gave it 29-28 for Lencioni, again, there is an argument to be made there. But you're gonna tell me he won all 3 rounds like that? No, dude. No. The judging was horrible. There was a lot of bad decisions. A lot of them. Hey. All right. Let's move on. Pat Downey versus Christian Echols. For this one, we do have a highlight here. So, Pat Downey, I don't know too much about these guys. I know Pat Downey, he was undefeated. He had 1 win coming into this. What is with the stance? Why is he flaring his lats with the underlighting? I don't know what's going on in this picture. Very weird. Not a very flattering picture of either of these fellas. Downey got the body lock and a slam early. And then Downey went for a front headlock, and he had that position. He was trying to lock up a submission. He got it actually pretty tight. But then there was this uppercut from Echols. Echols that landed. And then he ends up putting him to sleep here. Now let's watch that again. Boom. Uppercut right on the chin, putting him to sleep. Out. That was after he landed a few right hands and some more uppercuts. So great win for Echols. Let's move on to how about some more biased shit. Kai Kamaka taking on Kevin Boehm. Boehm. It's not Boehm. Beam. Kevin Beam. Good fight for Kamaka, right? This was a great fight for him. The low kicks from both these guys were landing early. John McCarthy, again, another thing. This isn't just him, but again, on this night, there was so much from him. It just added up. So John McCarthy was pointing out that the guy who is translucent white was showing damage. No shit, Sherlock. If you look at that guy too hard, he's gonna start showing signs of damage. You put him out, if he breaks a sweat, he's gonna turn flush and red because his skin is so translucent, right? It's so white, it's damn near clear. Kamaka landed a hook to the liver that made Kevin pull the guard down to protect it. The commentary was loving Kamaka. I think he is doing more damage. I really did. Kamaka did way more. He was really doing a good job. But it was not the one-sided ass kicking in the first round that the commentary team made it sound. I had him up 10-9 the first round. Kevin was more stationary, and it was allowing Kai to land some of those extended combos in the second round. Kai got a takedown and end the round on top. Kai was way out in front in the second round, 2018. Third round, Kevin started unleashing everything he had to start the round because he knew he was down 2. Started moving forward. Kai landed a front kick to the body that hurt Kevin pretty bad. Kevin stayed in there, didn't want to give it up, and Kai was doing damage on the ground, but the ref stopped the fight when Kevin was reversing position and got on top. This was how you could tell the commentary team was biased towards Kamaka. So, again, do I think Kamaka won the fight? Absolutely. Was he dominating the fight? Absolutely. So this is, again, not an indictment on Kamaka. He did exactly what he was supposed to do here. But the commentary team made it sound like, oh, that stoppage was perfect. If he had stopped it 5 seconds earlier, fine. If he had stopped it 10 seconds earlier in a different exchange, I'd be fine with it. But when he stopped it, Beam was literally flipping Kamaka over and getting into top position, and that's when he wanted them to separate. That's stupid. That's really, really dumb. Here is the kick, I believe, that hurt him. Yeah, there's the stabbing kick to the body. He ends up following up with this stuff. I don't know if they're going to show the finish. If they show it, I'll bring it back up. Oh, right here. That's when he's waving it off. You see who is on top? We'll go through that again one more time. I'll show you guys. But anyway, what I'm saying is, like, you put this in here. Like, look who's on top when the fight ends. So yeah, if he had stopped it there, that would have been fine. But no, look, he was working for better position. Come on, bad stoppage, bad timing on the stoppage. Like like I said, if he stopped it 10 seconds earlier, yeah, he was just taking damage. He wasn't doing much. Good win for him. Moving on, though, let's not belabor the point any more than I already have. Mark Lemminger versus Michael Lombardo. Lombardo really leading on that front foot and swinging, landing hooks. Lemminger sitting down on his combos as well, not throwing with the same kind of bad intentions like big swinging giant punches or anything, but he did do enough damage there in that first round. Both guys were landing really hard. Lombardo was landing low kicks, kind of giving him the edge in striking. Lemminger with a tight guillotine just didn't get it. Nothing. He ended up on his back. And then Lombardo landed a left hook that put him down, and the ref waved it off. It was a huge left hook at about 15 seconds. About one of 15 that he landed. Yeah, so he lands this. It like I said, he landed this about 15 times. Good stop. There's nothing wrong with the stoppage. Bam, right there, and he's out. Nothing wrong with that. That's a good stoppage. And then let us cover the very first fight of the night here. Jared Scoggins versus Cass Bell. Split decision. Oh yeah, okay. This fight was kind of close, I guess. There was enough action, but it was grapple heavy action. It just wasn't like a striking fest. But Bell was throwing everything he had into every punch, missing wildly early. Scoggins was able to hold him against the cage. Not a ton of damage from either of these guys in the first round, but I would say that Scoggins did more offensively, but not by much. So I had Scoggins up 10-9. Scoggins with the body lock and a great dump takedown in the second round. Bell got up and then got on top himself. He ended up staying there for the rest of the round, doing a little bit of damage. So I gave him that second round 19-19. Scoggins with the takedown after staying on it for about the first 2 minutes. Scoggins was working for a takedown. It's weird when you let the guys work for takedowns, they can get them sometimes. Mergliata. Bell ended up just getting right back up. He got a takedown himself with 50 seconds left, got the back, and I felt like he did more. I would give it to him for the damage that he did. So if you gave this to Scoggins because you gave him the third round, okay, I think that's okay. I disagree. I gave Bell that fight. I feel like overall the judges did get that one right. It's unfortunate that we had so much controversy and so much bullshit. So if you're looking for the main event, you made it this way. That's in the last video, right? That's not how the order of things work. So if you're looking for that one, if you're looking for the UFC, that's in the next couple videos. I'll cover that one for this weekend. Subscribe to the channel if you like this stuff. If you liked this video, you like pretty much everything I do. This is what I do. Sometimes I'm a little less fiery. Sometimes I'm more pumped up. Sometimes I'm more excited, less excited. Normal things. But subscribe so you know when the next video is coming out. If this is the only video you watch this week, holy moly, you're a weirdo, but my favorite kind of weirdo. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for spending your time here. It means a lot to me. I hope you have an amazing week, and I love y'all.